I found myself crying out this week, Lord, please don't let me die here. Please don't let me die here. Welcome to the Lips and Language podcast. My name is Cola, where we talk about life, love, and language. Remember to subscribe, like, and share. Let's get into today's topic. Welcome back to another episode of Can I Just Get It Together? Y'all, honestly, my mind has been stewing all day. I have been in reflection mode. And it's a quality I absolutely love about myself, but it also can get really frustrating. And I had no plans. I know I say this a lot, but I didn't have plans on recording today. But the thoughts and the conversation was coming, and I'm like, instead of waiting to try and remember it all, let me just jump on and record something. And as much as I love doing lip art, as much as that's a part of my brand, please believe, when I feel like God's leading me to say something, I will do a basic lip, throw on some lashes, and come on. Like, it's not even all that. It's something I love to do, but it doesn't take over everything, and it is not my identity. Did you know that ignoring your self-awareness will keep you stuck and emotionally imprisoned? Man, we go through life with this hustle mentality, going, never taking a moment to stop, to breathe, until life kind of just spirals out of control. But it is time to take control. It is time to experience the freedom of your most authentic self. And I have a gift for you. I have witnessed the tears, the happiness, the joy, the transformation when I have done this workshop in jail, in colleges, in high schools. And I want to offer this to you. So click the link below, get access to the free mini course. There's 4 videos. You are going to enjoy it. And let's get to the other side of healing, because you deserve to show up authentically as you. So I decided to jump on today because I've been in reflection mode, and my sister and I have been having great conversations, just trying to help me like mull through some of what my mind has been trying to process. And to be honest, I feel like today is like the second day of mental clarity, like a day when I actually feel my mind is clear, and I'm like, oh, I'm ready. I'm ready to war again. The warrior in me has come back. Like, I'm not taking nothing no more. I gotta fight back. Like, I gotta get my fuel back. But earlier this week, I really went for a walk, and things just felt like it was really challenging, and I've cried out to God. I'm like, please don't let me die here. Like, this ain't my promised land. You promised me something, and this ain't it. And so I can't stop here. I can't die out here. Like, I need to do what is necessary so I move on to the next, right? And while doing that, I want to make sure that I'm learning. I want to make sure that I'm reflecting. I want to make sure that I'm self-editing. It is a really powerful tool when we're able to be self-aware, self-edit, to understand what's going on with our emotions and with everything else. Like, we do ourselves a disservice when we don't take the time to learn ourselves, to learn what those pauses are, to learn what we can do better, to self-edit, and to just know, okay, you know what? To take constructive criticism. Of all the things happening this week, there is a lot going on in the viral world. Now, I'm off most social media, and I'm still hearing about this whole Keith Lee thing that happened. I absolutely love the brand that he has built, and I'm not going to touch on this too much, but when it comes to constructive criticism and being able to apply it, I feel like a lot of that has been missing the mark here. And a lot of people have been calling it out, but not just constructive criticism of businesses, but of our own personal self. And so I applaud like what Keith Lee has been doing, and just like keeping God first, being honest, not like in one of the videos I seen today, he's like, he'll take down his brand before he ever lies. And that's the same type of standards that we have to stand on. We have to not be compromising Christians or compromising people. Because interestingly enough, I did not start this podcast to be a Christian podcast. Like, I started this out of a need of wanting to read my book. And it's funny because when I started working with my mentor at one point, he was like, I feel like God's been telling you for years that you need to do this work. And I broke down crying. I was really upset. Let me tell you why. I live my life to be obedient and surrendered to God. And I'm like, when did God tell me and I didn't hear this? Because that's upsetting to me, because I'm like, that means I need my ears fixed. That means I'm not hearing. That means I'm moving wrong. And I don't have time to be moving wrong, right? So many things have happened since my son's passed, and I feel like I've been on this hustle journey trying to build back my life, trying to get like into a place where I don't feel worthless. Now, I know I'm not worthless. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes when you get to a certain point or a certain age, and things around you just aren't working the way that you thought it would. You thought you'd be further along. You thought you'd have this and this together, and you don't. You tend to feel worthless. Now, the key is not to feed into that thought or those notions. The key is to address it. That may be how I feel. That may be how you feel, but that's not the truth. And we're just going to keep on moving, right? We're not bypassing it. We're not ignoring it. We're not being like, that's stupid and that's the devil and all this other stuff. It may be. There is something powerful about acknowledging how you feel before you move on from it. And I find a lot of the times we just kind of like, oh, well, it could be worse. Oh, well, that's not we don't allow ourselves to acknowledge anything. And so because we don't acknowledge it, we can't address it. And I'm not saying to go out there and start acknowledging and calling yourself depressed or say you're full of anxiety. There's a fine line between acknowledging that something's happening to address it, to find a solution to it, and allowing it to become your identity. People are like, oh, my anxiety. It don't belong to you. Anxiety don't belong to nobody but the devil. Like, God has given us peace, love, and a sound mind. Anxiety does not belong to us. Anyways, what was the point I was making? The point I was making is I had a mentor who had said I'm supposed to do this work for a long time, and I really took it personal because I saw God at one point like I thought like he was my parent, and like my parent growing up. So often I felt like a complete disappointment to my parents growing up because I'm the artsy one, I'm the creative one. I don't have a regular 9-to-5 job. I had a child when I was 16. Like, I haven't felt like the one that they're proud of. And I felt like I'm always chasing for them to be proud of me. I felt like I'm always chasing to be good enough. And so I brought that same mentality into interacting with God. And so he would say one little thing, and I'm like, I can't handle that type of disappointment. I can't handle you being disappointed in me, because what do I have left? My son's gone. He was like a cheerleader to me. I have friends, I do. And they're encouraging, but I also know that like sometimes I'm the strong friend. Like, I'm the one who gives advice. So I don't always have it's not to say I don't have people who pour into me, but I'm more the one who pours out on people. And so in that situation, I'm like, God is the one who I look up to. I truly look up to him. And for him to say, or for me to hear that, I was like, I don't know how to handle that. And I was like, no. I was like going through in my mind. I'm like, when did he tell me and I didn't listen? When did this happen? And I couldn't figure it out until today. Until I was in the right mind frame to receive what he was saying. In 2018, when I self-published this book, when I released my memoir, I had the idea to start the podcast. And the idea was that I was going to read the chapters, and then I was going to have a discussion about the chapters and about things going on within the book, right? That was part of the premise of why I was doing this podcast. I wanted to discuss it. I wanted to discuss a lot of the topics because I found that there's so many things that we don't discuss in church, sex being one of them. How to manage having sex, how to manage not having sex, how to manage, what do you do when you fall into sex? And not just sex, but sexual assault. That was a part of my history. That was a part of what I've come from, right? My experiences. Having a child out of wedlock. There was so much shame thrown at me that I thought I was going to die. Like, people really read me for filth. Now, in me discussing these simple things, the point is to point everybody back to God and say, but look, God is amazing. You might mess up, but he will redeem. He can restore, right? And so when I was sitting here today and I was like, wow, 2018, you told me to do this podcast. And I started the podcast. I started reading, but back then I was just reading the chapters. I was going to read it first, and then eventually I was going to put it into an audiobook. And then I started the skincare business with my sister. And so because I started the skincare business and it required so much of my attention, the podcast was put on hold. And I was on top of doing the skincare business, I was also teaching. I was also using the book and the stories to teach. I was teaching in high schools. I was going to colleges, or at least one college. I was in the jail teaching. And I had turned my book into a whole program. Like, there was this whole thing that I did. And so I got so wrapped up in teaching in the skincare business that I forgot the one thing he told me to do. And now we're in the future. And I'm like, he gave me this vision of me leaving. And I had a thought today that it's like my Joseph moment. Joshua too, because I'm gonna take the land and I'm gonna take it by storm. But Joseph, because Joseph had a dream and he ran and told people this dream before it was time for it to come to pass. God gave a vision of this what is in your future, and he said right now, and that's what I did. I said, ooh, right now. And on top of it, I was getting other dreams that confirmed this is a thing, this is possible. If you want to know what I'm talking about, watch the Faith is Big as Mountains playlist that I have. And I just move forward with this. The one thing that God has consistently asked me to do that has been reoccurring is a podcast. Even in my sister and I were building the skincare business, we were still talking about doing a podcast. Talking about health and well-being and all the same topics, mental health and why it's important. And so now I find myself today in a moment of clarity where I feel like I've just stepped out of the fog. And I was reflecting today when this year, because I was on track for a bit. This year. And I'm like, when did it change and how did it change? And my sister and I were talking about how the enemy is so crafty. Like, we don't always want to blame things on the devil, but this really was. When he's shooting the arrows, they were hitting because I wasn't in the right spot. Like, they were coming in forms of distraction. I was distracted by this, by that, by helping, by being in ministry, by this. I was helping everybody else but myself. And my best friend had told me about it. She's like, you need to take care of you. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I also get fulfillment by helping people. Yeah, but God called me to do something. And I've been in disobedience. And I'm like, God, I don't get it. I'm not in disobedience. I'm doing what you asked me to do. I'm fasting. I'm praying. I'm doing all this stuff. But the one thing he truly asked me to do was share my voice. And that's the one thing that I struggle to do, because the topics that I want to talk about, I'm like, man, they gonna fight me. And the way in which to plan it out and to make this my thing, I was like overwhelmed by it. And at the same time, there were so many needs around me. This one needed this one needed that. And I was like, okay, I help here, I help there. And now I know 9 months has passed and I'm like, dang, how did I get here? How did I not see it? How was I so blinded? How was I not shaken out of this? And then it got to a point, the last few episodes that I did, I talked about it, is my mind was like in this fog. And I was just battling my mind. For the last 2 months, it has been a mind battle. So everything was good up until March. I'll give you a timeline. Everything was good up until March. From March to June, my focus was taken away on other things. June, something happened, and I was like, oh, it was a door that I thought was going to open, and it closed so fast. And then it left me with like, okay, so what's next? And so now that that door closed, I'm like, okay, I got to figure out what to do after. And then things at this house started needing help and rearranging and organizing. And then I get to August. And August is another uptick between July and August because I have some new things happening in my life. I reconnected with somebody that was a little bit confusing. And one by one, distractions just kept being sent to me, and I couldn't see it. And then by the time the end of August to like October happened, I was in this fog of like, no, something's wrong. And I feel it in my spirit before I understand it in my mind. I'm like, something is wrong, but I don't know what. And I don't know where to pinpoint. I don't know how to connect it, but I know something is wrong. I know I'm missing something. And so now I'm searching my brain. And because I'm searching my brain, I'm overthinking. And because I'm overthinking, I'm getting very overwhelmed with everything happening. And I'm like, I need to figure this out. You know, when you have an issue with somebody and they come and they apologize to you and you're like, okay, what you saying sorry for? And they're like, well, you said this and this and that. Okay, well, what are you apologizing for? And they don't have an understanding of what they're apologizing for. So they're just saying sorry because they're sorry, but they don't know why they're sorry. And you really want them to understand why they're sorry so that they don't do it again. That's how I was with God. Is I was this whole time I've been repenting, apologizing. God, I don't know what it is. I don't know what the disconnect is. I don't know what I'm missing. And I'm asking God for help. But I didn't have a full revelation or understanding of what I was apologizing for. And a part of it was because I had too many voices around me. And not just like friends, family. I'm talking about like YouTubes and leaders and all. Like I had filled my circle with a lot of voices so that when I'm saying, God, I can't hear you, he's like, how? You're standing, like the analogy I said, I'm standing in a crowd with so much people walking around me yelling. And I'm just like, I'm seen, but I'm invisible. And I'm trying to understand what is happening. So I've been very strategic in trying to close off these voices, being disciplined about not taking on these voices, and praying, not even praying long, just like back to my simple prayers. God, help. I need to understand this. I need to know what's going on. And little by little, he's been showing me and revealing to me, this is what the thing is. This is what the issue is. This is what's been causing all these other things. Understanding. And it's because I was seeking to understand God, but also myself, that I have understanding today. Self-editing is so important. And I can see how I allowed this to be a distraction. I can see how I allowed this move that I'm waiting to happen, that I'm in this waiting period, but I allowed this move to become an idol. That I was just like, well, I'm just going to sit here until God brings me. And I'm doing busy work. And I'm doing things that we'd be like, God, I'm helping people. I'm doing, yes, but none of it is what he asked me to do. None of it is what I'm meant to do. In life, we'll go through seasons where we're just moving. We're just, okay, got bills to pay, family to take care of. We want to feel like somebody. And so we're moving forward, but we're not really connecting to what it is he asked us to do. The scripture for the last few weeks has been Matthew 6. Seek first the kingdom and all these other things will be added. Matthew 6:33. And the reason that's been so important is because in all of this that I've been doing, I've been seeking to help people. I've been seeking to be a support. I've been seeking to, like, just waiting. I've been seeking just answers, but I haven't sought to know and understand why it felt like God was silent, why it felt like I could no longer hear, why it felt like I was missing the mark. I'm doing all the work, but I'm not seeing the results because I was missing the mark. And so they often say, when you can't hear God, go back to the last thing he told you to do. And I talked about this podcast, this ministry that he gave me. My voice It's my voice. The confidence to stand and to believe that I have a voice, that I have a voice worth hearing, and that I'm going to be consistent in showing up with my voice until it makes a dent in the world that I needed to make a dent in, until people understand how important healing is, until people understand that the goal is Jesus. It's not money. It's not even purpose. It's not even work. It's literally to build a beautiful relationship with God, to have that peace inside of us, regardless of what's going on around us, to be mentally strong and confident, to not allow the spirit of grief to take us out, to not allow the lack of love to speak louder than anything else, to not feel like we are a waste of space. I'm here for the misfits. I'm here for those who don't feel like they're connected to church or connected to ministry. I'm here for the men who feel like they don't have a safe space, whose voices feel like they are like trampled on, that they can't be vulnerable in any other space. The ones who grow up with people who told them to shut up and be quiet, that they can't cry and they can't show emotions. I'm here for a reason. And now I'm willing to stand on that. I mean, I was always willing to stand on it, but now that I understand why I'm saying sorry, why I'm apologizing, why I'm opening myself up to God and saying, you know what, I screwed up. I will take accountability that I was too caught up in my own desires, too caught up in why. And let me tell you why I've been so pressed for leaving this place. Okay, leaving this place. From when I was 14. If you ever listen to my book, read the book, you'll understand. From when I was 14, I was assaulted. And I have been chasing this feeling of peace, chasing normalcy, chasing so many things. I have so many memories of horrible times in this space. Not specifically this house, like this house too, but like within my area. That to change cities would allow me to feel like I can breathe again. I feel like I've been holding my breath for 34 years. Well, 20-something years at least. And I just want to breathe. And in breathing, I feel like if I'm able to breathe, then things will make sense and things will start to be okay. But I can't wait. I can't keep holding my breath. You know, when we had this thing when we were kids where we hold our breath past the cemetery, but then you just happen to go past that really long cemetery that you just like the whole time. That's how it's been, but I've been so unconscious to it. And God has been saying to me, start where you're at. Start with what I gave you. Start with the voice that you have. Start with the experiences that you have. Speak. Talk about it. If they don't want to hear it, tough. Those who don't want to hear about sexual assault, it doesn't stop it from happening. Those who don't want to hear how men are depressed and they're hurting doesn't stop them from suicide. Those who have women whose hearts are broken, it doesn't stop them from loving or becoming bitter because I'm quiet. I have a responsibility, not just to people, not to myself either, but to God, to be everything that He created me to be, and to do it unapologetically, and to not compromise as this platform is built. And to not focus on numbers, who's listening and who's not, but to speak as eloquently as He allows me to speak. And so today I'm finally able to breathe. Today I'm finally able to see that this thing I've been chasing has been in front of me all the while. This book that God allowed me to write 77 chapters, 7 years to write it. This book has purpose. It's my ministry's foundation. It is my life's work to this point. And it is a voice, a loud voice that I will speak. I will speak from it. You know, when I was teaching in the jail, when I was going from place to place, and I was meeting these young men, and we were talking, and I was doing poems, but we were talking about the story, and just to see them talk about how much they relate to it. My favorite time was this one time when we're talking, we're in a session, and one of them say, my grandma used to bring me to church. I started breaking out with like an old church song, and then some of the rest of the guys joined in, and they wanted me to sing, and I started singing with them, and it's like, whew, took me back to church. This is why the Bible says, train up a child in the way they should go, and it shall never leave. The foundation was there. Now, how they chose to live their lives, it ain't up to me. But the foundation was there of something good, of a seed that was planted. My goal and your goal is to plant seeds in other people's lives. Good seeds. That we may not always be around to see how it grows, how it's watered, but we can be sure that when we do our best and when we plant the seed, God will do the rest. And I'm going to leave it here. So have an amazing night. Y'all, let the clouds settle. Let the fog dissipate and just be clear-minded. And let God do the rest. What would it look like if we were a people that were healed? What would it look like if we were people that believed in doing the work necessary to remove trauma, to get through grief, and to come out on the other side? Man, we think that therapy is the only way. Therapy is a great way, but there's also a creative way that can help us get through this process. My name is Kola. I am an amazing artist, and I have a program called Restore and Embrace Myself. It is all about the healing and the getting through and the getting over. And if nobody told you, you are special and you are so deserving of so much more in this world. So get in contact with me because I'd love to work with you.